Oh, basically what we're talking about here is speaker sensitivity. I get this question a lot of times. Like I got that Yamaha RX V6A, and we're not even going to talk about why I had to buy that stupid thing. But anyway,
I'm curious.
somebody's asking, what speakers should I get for this AV receiver? And anything in that like, $200 to $600 price point, get something that's got high sensitivity, right? And that's mainly because of the perceived volume at your listening area. Okay. I brought up a slide that I had in a video I made a couple years ago. I think it's this one here. Nope, it's not that one. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Hold on. I gotta share the wrong thing. My bad. Oh, here it is.
Look at me, I'm China.
What? What happened? What are you doing? I don't see. Are you eating something?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There you
He's
go.
got dinner, man.
Nice.
Nice.
Okay. All right. So basically, here's what we got. If you have a 92 decibel speaker, which is a pretty sensitive speaker, at 1 watt of power, what is the rule? 1 watt of power, 1 meter away, you're getting that 92 decibels. Okay.
Yep.
So, in this video, how much power do speakers need? I went ahead and measured how much volume decreases as I get farther out. And what I found was every meter, so every 3.3 feet, it drops 3 decibels. So, if I was like where I'm sitting now, if I'm 3 meters away, I'm going to drop 6 decibels. And to get 3 decibels more loudness, you have to double your power. So here we can see on this little chart here, if you're 6 meters away, 3 meters away, we got to double the power.
You'd have to triple it because you're saying there's 3 dB per meter. And you're 3 meters, so that would be 369.
Double it and double it again, though. I think.
Right. So even though like power based on sensitivity, we'd have to double it to 2 watts, then to 4 watts, then to 8 watts. This is what we're getting 101 at 1 meter, but it's going to be back down to 92 where you sit. So if we go now and take that over to an 88 dB sensitive speaker, now we need more watts to get that same level over there. And then here at an 86 dB, man, we're 8 watts. We've got 95 dB, and over here we've got 8 watts at 101 dB. So if you have a power hungry speaker like an 86 dB, 86 decibel per 1 watt per 1 meter away, you're going to need a lot of power to get the reference, which 75 dB at your listening area. So this is something definitely to take into consideration, and why I always say get a power amplifier for your front stage.
Always good.
Right?
More power is good.
So you can have max headroom, right, Croson? We were just joking about that. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah.
When you're AVR shopping or speaker shopping for AVRs, what do you think?
For what it's worth, I just dropped a link out there that I always use for it's a Max SPL calculator website, and you can go in and you can tell what the speaker sensitivity is and how far away it is from the walls and how far away it is from you and all that stuff, and it tells you basically Max SPL for the speakers in the room. So it's a good guide. I often use it to kind of double check things, and you can just find it if you just search Max SPL calculator. So, but to me, that question, it really just depends on sensitivity of the speaker. And then I think somebody else I saw in here also mentioned the low impedance. That's a good point too. A speaker that has a dips down to a very low impedance is going to need a good amp to drive it.
Oh, for sure. You need to make sure that amplifier is stable at that, whatever it is, 4 ohm or 2 ohm. I saw some cat speakers, some California Audio Technology speakers that were like half an ohm. No. It was a 1 ohm speaker, and they made these custom amplifiers, these monoblocks that were stable at half an ohm. It's ridiculous.
That's some
car audio territory.
I was
there.
about to say, back in the day, we'd go down to half ohm, but you don't really hear that. I know with me, I think the original Klipsch RF7s, they would dip down like 2.4 ohms at certain bass frequencies. And so a lot of people don't realize that. They think that their speakers are 8 ohms. Well, they're 8 ohms nominal, which means kind of like your average.
But
right. That fluctuates depending on the frequency that's playing. So if you've got it dipping down to say 4 ohms and you've got it connected to an AVR receiver, and especially if you've got it connected to 7 speakers, 9 speakers, 11 speakers, or 13 speakers, now you're asking that front speaker to drop down, like I said, maybe down to 2 ohms. So that's taking a lot of power out of the amplifier, and it's trying to power all the rest of them. So an amplifier is always a good thing. Even if you just take that front load off with those front 3 channels, or maybe your 5 floor level speakers or whatever, anything to relieve some of that duty from the AVR, that's definitely a good thing. So a lot of good benefits that come from that.
I have a few questions that are related to this.
Yeah, do it,
which
man.
is I hear a lot of people who say, well, power is cheap, right? When they talk about low sensitivity speakers, they're like, well, power is cheap now, right? It's not like back in the day where, your amps were 20 watts. We have 100, 200 watt amps that, as you were showing earlier with the Emotiva stuff, right? So that is true. But also, I think people forget, like, you're going to hit limits too, right? So just because you have that power doesn't mean that speaker is going to handle all that power.
Correct.
And then I think another thing that's not considered a lot of times is that, let's say for the same exact amp, using a speaker that is lower sensitivity, you actually have to turn it up louder, right, to get to the same volume. And sometimes you start increasing your signal to noise ratio. So you might increase your noise floor, right? So I've had some inefficient speakers where I had them at my desk. I had to turn them up real loud, and by that time, like, I could hear like some audible hiss that I wasn't used to hearing with other speakers. So that's a few things to consider, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So what is the relationship between sensitivity and dynamics, though? Because I think there is a relationship there.
I think that also comes into play with the speaker sensitivity as well, for sure, and amplifier headroom. So I guess if Steve is watching, this will be a good one for you to talk about if you care to. So speaker sensitivity.
He did not go there.
I mean, this is actually a pretty good conversation. It's one that I want to do at some point. So I'm not fully prepared with the math, but I can just say that,
with the math.
because if you're talking headroom, you had to figure out like how much amplifier power you have. So let's just say, generally speaking, most modern pop music I think has about 3 decibels of headroom. Chana, you can probably tell me, normally, like, when you record or you mix music, I mean, what kind of headroom do you leave? Like 6 dB, 12 dB?
Yeah. Well, as far as actually doing the recording, whatever instrument should be hitting in between -6 and -12 on the VU meter coming in. But as far as sending it out to a mastering engineer, they wanted minimum of 6 dB of headroom.
Okay, right. So that's a good thing, though.
Yeah, of course, because they're going to pump the dynamics. Like I've seen all these tools, I've used them all also as well. So I mean, there's this like tube situation we can get into a little later. But anyway, go on.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 dB of headroom minimum.
Yeah, so let's say that, like, you got modern pop music and you send it out and it's got 6 dB of headroom. That's okay. That's not great. But like music that I listen to, a lot of it, especially the 80s music, was recorded well, produced well, and it has anywhere from at least 10 dB to maybe 15, 16, 17, 18 dB of headroom. And that headroom is just like the transient. So if you hit a kick drum, you have the fundamental, but if you have, let's say, 6 dB of headroom, but that fundamental goes up to like 10 dB in level, then you've chopped off 4 dB of headroom. Like the dynamics is chopped off 4 dB right there.
Yeah.
So amplifier headroom kind of works the same way. So let's say that you're typically listening to a speaker and it's 85 dB on average. The way you've got your amplifier gain and all that stuff set up is the maximum output that you can have with that speaker is 90 dB. So that means you've got 5 dB of headroom, but you've got music that might have 10 dB of headroom, like dynamic range in the track, that means that you're losing 5 dB of dynamic range in your music because your amplifier doesn't have the ability to hit those transients with the speaker that you've got connected to it. And that's why having a lot more power can be helpful. It's what people are saying is it's not so much to buy 500 watts and pump the speaker with 500 watts all the time. It's 500 watts on tap, normally listening, sucking about 30 watts on average, you know? So you've got that 470 watts left over in the bank to give you those really fast, like less than a millisecond transients that just pop, and that gives you that dynamic feel of music, you know?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. And for the most part, you know, there's this thing that happened 90s, early 2000s, and that's called the like loudness war. So basically a lot of this music was being compressed to hell, meaning all their transients were hitting the roof of a limiter and all the dynamics were sucked out of the music. And that was literally just to be like, okay, you got song A played on the radio, and if song B wasn't as loud, people perceive it as the song not being good, literally just because of the loudness not being the same. And they started doing this pretty much en masse on all pop productions. Yeah, and it's slowly gotten. As a matter of fact, are you familiar with the dynamic range database? No, I'm not. Are any of you got? All right, let me do a screen share real fast, and I'll just show you guys.
What is that?
It's a website. And what
so you were kind of like talking about what Rick Thrasher said here. People are overbuying on amps at normal listening levels. You're not drawing. You're only drawing a few watts per channel, which is totally true. Right. But then there's that whole thing of how much headroom do you want? Like if my music normally only has 6 dB of headroom, then you only need to buy an amplifier with that much additional power. But if you listen to music that has like classical music or something that, you know, has 10 to 15 or 20 dB of headroom, then maybe you do need that much more power, because it's not like you're listening to, you know, 200 watts at like continuously. You're probably listening to 30 watts continuously, but you might want that extra in the bank. So let me do this real fast. So this is the dynamic range database. And what this is what Chana was talking about. And if you just go find, let's say I'm gonna pull up Bruno Mars. And this is basically the dynamic range of the music that you would be listening to. And the lower the number, the worse it is. That means the more compressed the music is. So his 24 karat, okay, I'm just gonna grab this top one, Unorthodox Jukebox, 2012 release. Average dynamic range for the entire album is a 5. Okay, a 5 is this out of 10? I can't see the numbers.
This is out of, well, this is not out of anything in particular. It's not just a number.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you could have as much as 20. And 0 would mean that you have no headroom in the track at all. Like you compress the music all the way up. There's no peaks, dips, nothing.
It's just a solid waveform all the way up.
And it's just like a square wave, basically.
How many songs are on here? Like, is it pretty
well? It's
robust?
All like users can go in and provide anything they want. Matter of fact, I provided some stuff too. So I just typed in classical music just for an album search, just to give me something to go by. So you can see that whatever album this is, a Beethoven, and the album is Masters of Classical Music Volume 3.
Yeah, they got tons of dynamic. Look at that, 14 12,
on average.
So dynamic range, we're saying the difference between the loudest sounds and the quietest.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I had, if I had some waveforms up here, I could probably maybe give you a better idea. But basically, like I said, 0 dB would be like a square wave. Like there's nothing in the music that's not hitting max. And then you can have, you're seeing 14s and 3s. Greens are good for what it's worth. Reds are bad. But a lot of the music that I listen to is like 80s type music. And that's one of the reasons why, is because I love, having that extra dynamic range. It was recorded well, it was produced well, and all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, on this website, man, you can just go up here and you can type in whatever. Like I'll just type in Phil Collins. And
do you bump classical though? Honestly,
heck no. I never listen to classical music.
Did you say heck no or techno?
This is one guy asked them, "Do you bump classical?" It just sounds funny. You should ask somebody next time.
All right,
I bumped it.
Face value.
I go to the tone controls and bump them up to plus 12, both of them.
Crank them to max.
So this is what Aaron was talking about. On the bottom, you see here something completely compressed, and on the top waveform, you see something that's got dynamic range.
A lot of variation, right?
Yeah, variation. Yep.
Yeah.
See if I can zoom in.
So you can get surprised with it while like you're listening, it's quiet, and then whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
Would it be safe to say that for using the same exact amplifier, a speaker that has a higher sensitivity will give you more dynamic range. Was that safe to say, or is that not accurate?
Hold on, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I was
Yeah,
trying to close that
For
screen.
for a given amplifier, right? Let's say
Okay.
you're not going to change out your amplifier. You're only going to change out speakers.
Right.
The more sensitive speaker will give you more dynamic range, or is that
Yes.
yes?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're and here's another thing. Let me go and share this screen. Maybe boring some of the people, but I think this is
Maybe
pretty
that's also
interesting.
assuming. Are we also assuming that it can handle a wide range of power, right?
Right,
That's-
and that's
yeah.
and that's one thing. So if you go to Crown Audio's website, which if you don't know what Crown Audio is, that's owned by Harman, which Harman's owned by Samsung, but it's Crown and JBL, Harman, all the same basic, in the same house, so to speak, under the
AKG too?
same umbrella. Who? Yes. I'll go with-
AKG, yes.
Yes. So Crown makes a lot of pro audio amplifiers, and they have a lot of great calculators on their website, and this is one of them, right? And this is amplifier power required. So what I've done is I've set this up, and I'm saying listener distance from source. Now let's say most of us listen at average. I'm gonna blow this up a little bit at about
Nice.
no God, not 9 meters. Sorry, 3 meters away.
3 meters
So
would be
that's
9
That's Chana right there.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
about 10 feet or so. And we're
Chana's
going to
in the
say
bathroom
on
listening.
average, we're listening 86 decibels, and the speaker sensitivity is 86 dB. And we're going to say we want our amplifier headroom because the music we listen to has about 6 dB. Well, let's change this to 10. Let's say we're listening to with something with some good headroom, decent headroom.
Okay.
And so what we'll do is we'll say calculate. So we're saying,
Okay.
Wow.
okay, the amplifier
Gotcha.
power
Cool.
required is 90 watts.
That is
Now,
cool.
what happens if you go and say, okay, now you got a low sensitivity speaker?
Okay.
Now
80.
358.
Ooh.
So you can still
And it-
have, and that's
Wow.
all. That's all. So you can keep this amplifier headroom. But
And
now,
it needs to be able to handle that too.
right,
So what
right,
if you-
and it
what if you did
right,
100?
that's the thing. But that's what you're going to need from the amplifier if you're going to be listening at 86 decibels and you want 10 dB of headroom. So you want to be able to hit peaks of 96 dB instantaneously.
Mhm.
You got to have 358 watts for an 80
On
dB
tap.
sensitive speaker.
You need it on tap.
Wow.
Right. Now, here's the cool thing. So if you change this over to, let's say 90, well, let's just change it back to 86. Because I think, like I said, this is pretty neat stuff. And you're going to be listening, on average, you listen at 75 dB. Then you need 7 watts to have 75 dB on average with 10 dB of headroom.
Mhm.
And if you want to
Ah.
go 20 dB of headroom because you like listening to Beethoven while you're just chilling,
14.
then you
Oh,
need
71.
71.
Bumping Beethoven.
Yeah.
What is the average for movies? Not average, but like what is the spec? What are you supposed to have as far as
I don't-
headroom for a
movies,
movie?
What is
20?
So
20
THX is 80 and then peaks of 102.
Yeah.
I thought it was-
so. Okay, so let's say 80.
Or I thought it was
I thought-
75 and 105.
Or 85
So
and 105.
that'd be 30 decibels of headroom.
We're all
right?
just throwing out numbers. 85,
Yeah.
105, 82, 102.
We're gonna go
Something
with
around there.
Yeah,
85,
it's supposed to be 75 to
20
105.
headroom. That's 715 watts for an 86 dB watt sensitivity speaker at 3 meters.
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit tricky because they want 105 dB for the subs,
Right.
right?
I have to change it to 90.
Not-
I'm gonna
not
close
for
this
the
out. But
needs.
one thing to keep in mind too is you're talking just a single speaker. So when you add another speaker into it, that gives you like another 6 because you're doubling speaker and you're doubling power. So that's another 6 dB in the room. Right.
I think people forget that a lot of times that when you add another speaker, you're also, if you're using a amplifier for each one, you're also doubling the power.
right.
So I'm
right.
glad you said that.
Yeah.